13th of February 2005. My name is Bob Underwood from Greensboro, North Carolina.
You're in the Rookery?
I'm in the Rookery cabinet, Lower Meherabad.
In India?
In India.
Okay.
And this is about my experiences during the 1969 Darshan. I came with the New York group. That was not the group I was affiliated with. I was affiliated with Myrtle Beach, but I was in college at the time. My examinations didn't fit the Myrtle Beach schedule, so New York was the only flight available. And so I joined the society and enjoyed their hospitality. I got to New York a few days early and met Anna Rosa and occasionally browsed around the society headquarters and just basically killed time for about 3 days before planning to get on the plane.
How old were you then?
How old was I? I think 28. And I'm now 63. If those numbers don't jive, just straighten them out. I think that's roughly it. The most important thing about the Darshan was that it began not in India, it began at the airport. And I was fortunate to be one of the first 2 or 3 people to get into the Air India terminal, get my ticket processed, and go upstairs in the waiting area. And I've always compared this to a radioactive nuclear pile where rods of uranium are put into and neutrons flow and the whole thing heats up. You know, it's a controlled fission reaction. Well, this was a controlled fusion. People came in and the love just grew and grew and grew. It became a bonfire of love. It was like an oven. And I don't mean really physically hot, but spiritually hot. The love was just amazing. Just right there in the airport terminal. I expected a Darshan. When Baba passed on on the 31st, it was my good fortune to be at the Meher Center. I had no idea, of course, that this was going to happen. Nobody in our neck of the woods knew anything. It just happened to be that I scheduled myself and a bunch of friends to come down to the Meher Center and be there for the Amartithi. I guess you call it the first or the 0th Amartithi. Again, the point I was trying to make is that by that time, I was aware that MeherBaba was God and that he had manifested himself to us, with us. His radiant presence was with us in the car driving down. And when we got to Myrtle Beach, everybody looked rather solemn and glum. And I was wondering what's wrong. This isn't the usual. There's not a welcoming committee here or anything. People are looking pretty distracted. I walked at that point. We were met at what we call Kitty's house. It was Elizabeth's house, Dilruba. And Elizabeth looked right at us and said, "It's very fortunate that you came here today." And then it occurred to me, yeah, okay, he's passed on, and she had told me he had passed on. I felt that prior to that point, that MeherBaba's divinity manifested in the world beyond his physical body, and that the question of the Darshan came up fairly quickly. And in my mind, I would go anyway. The Darshan had been planned well before he passed on, but the Darshan was planned 6 months after he passed on. So I guess I could say I had faith. I really
You
believed.
went 6 months after, but
Pardon?
it wasn't, you said it was planned 6
It
months.
was
Yeah,
planned
the date
6
for your date.
The date was planned from June from April to June, I believe.
April 10th to June 10th.
Yeah, of 69, and he passed on just at the early part of the year. So, I was planning to go, and that didn't change my plans. I still plan to go. And quite soon afterwards, a cable was sent saying that the Darshan would be given as planned. So that was just confirming things.
Where were you when that cable was sent? When you heard that the cable was sent?
I don't remember. I think maybe.
Were you in college? Were you still at school? You just finished your exams.
No, the exams were some the cables telling us when that the Darshan would continue. I think that might have come within a few days of the cable informing us of
So you're still
I might
in
have
Myrtle Beach.
still been in Myrtle Beach. I might have still been down there. After the experience of being in the Air India terminal, I guess the next big experience was landing in India after that long flight. And they treated us royally on the plane. Never been treated like that before. They went all out to, Air India went all out to make our flight as pleasant as possible. We got into Bombay. It was kind of shocking to see people just lying there on the streets and sidewalks, kind of wrapped up in sheets or whatever they could to keep the mosquitoes off. We were bussed over to hotels. And this was probably, I think we landed in around 2 or 3 in the morning. And I think there were Indians there welcoming us, but from the balcony of the airport. And if there were, I'm told there were, I have a very vague memory of that. We took the train to Pune, and that was a fascinating ride because
You stayed in a hotel first?
Stayed in a hotel.
We had gone straight.
Yeah.
By the time you guys came, they changed it up.
I guess so. It was the east for me and others. It was the east-west, and then we took. I believe it was the Deccan Queen Railroad out. The monsoons came in at the same time the train went to Pune, and it was quite a bizarre weather situation. The air turned a neon orange, inside and outside. It was the most incredible glow, and the winds were whipping up. The dust was swirling around out there in the fields, and of course, as you go up through the mountains, you just pass through tunnel after tunnel with brief views of valleys and mountains and cliffs and all that, off in the distance, cut off by another tunnel. And it's quite fascinating it was quite a fascinating trip. One person woke up, had been napping and woke up during that time when the air was glowing, and he said he thought he was in another world, and I could see why. It really was an amazingly strange light that just permeated everything. Anyway, we got up to I stayed at the Gulmore, and again, it was a pretty fascinating experience of Indian culture. There really were snake charmers. It's out in front of the hotel. I thought that was probably something out of a story somewhere. That I didn't think that sort of thing would still go on, but there they were, with the basket and the cobra and the little pipe and everything. Some of us wondered whether we should be there or not. I remember one person had very deep doubts as to whether he deserved to be there. And he was expressing these doubts to one of them, Andre and Bob, his brother. and was assured that no matter what had happened, if he'd been kidnapped, he was, carted off by in some strange way. If he had landed there at this time, he definitely deserved to be there and should be there. And this put the man at ease. So the first day, we were bused over to Garupasad.
Do you remember who were the ones different people, different Bible lovers were assigned the different hotels to take care of you don't remember who was taking care of your group? At your hotel? Because the different hotels have different ones.
No, I don't. I remember that Dr. Goher came into the dining room and told us a few things about how to watch out for our health and things like that.
Okay, so the bus came.
It could well have been John. I think maybe Bob's brother. I seem to remember seeing a good bit of him. The bus came. I remember that there was I was a very skeptical person by nature and still am. And I remember there was this attempt to have a rousing cheer of Avatar Meher Ki Jai. And that didn't sit well with me. I thought, this is not something that I need a cheering squad for. This is not I wasn't in that. I wanted it to be real. I didn't want to be pepped up for it. And I didn't know really what I was going to get, and I still don't know what I got. Supposedly you're not supposed to measure those things in any way, but what honest person can avoid it? It's a fair question. We went in, sat down in this room, and Erich began telling us that he had an address for us. Most of us, I think, took that to mean that this pilgrimage was just beginning and that we were going to have to go somewhere else at some point in time. And there was this shuffling around to take out pens and paper so we could copy this address that he was going to provide, which by address he meant a talk by Francis Brabazon. So we quickly stuffed that back in our pockets and went on to listen to the talk. The central part of the Darshan was that there was a chair in the middle of the room, and we were to come up one by one, and this was optional. We didn't have to do it, but we were there for that, to bow down to this chair. And that was a strange thing for me to do, but I was going to do it, because that's what I came for. If this is what I needed to do, I wanted to do it. At first, I just sort of sat there in the back, toward the back of the room, and Mara was the one who led that. She began, and Baba's sandals were put off to the side of the chair. That's probably the largest mistake I made, was that I didn't realize that the sandals were particularly important. I thought the chair was important. And Mara had bowed down very solemnly to the chair and then to the sandals and then walked off. I know I'm missing details here, but somebody else will have to fill those in. Anyway, we came up one by one, and I got pretty restless after a while, so I moved up into the center of the group and was still restless. I don't know how many people had passed before me. There were maybe 150 people in the room. And so I got restless enough, and I wanted to get this darshan done. So I went up and bowed down and tried to imagine very intensely that Baba was embracing me and that I was embracing him. And nothing happened. And I felt a little nervous about this because I thought this was the point where there would be some incredible change, some big flash of light or something, some fundamental change in my personality. It didn't happen. I wanted it to happen, but it didn't happen. So I bowed down to the chair, hoped that Baba was hugging me, hoped that I was hugging him. After a while, I realized that if I stayed in this position for a long time, there would be other people who would be rather impatient, and public pressure being what it is, I decided to move on. So I skipped the sandals, forgot about them really, and went on out. After I got outside, I didn't really know what to do with myself. But somebody pointed out another room and said Baba did a lot of work in this room in Guru Prasad too, and there was a chair in there, and you could bow down to that. Well, I had wanted to get done whatever was done at that first chair. And it was sort of the one and only point in time and space that I really wanted to meet Baba, that I felt I was supposed to meet Baba. And later on, people were putting their heads on the tree that Baba Jan sat under and things like that. And after a while, I kind of got tired of it all. But in spite of the feeling of restlessness and just the feeling like nothing had changed much, I went through it. We had 4 days, and I attended all of those. I don't know that all of us who were there did, but I attended those and bowed down to that one chair. Toward the end of the program, my feeling was that Baba was somehow in that chair, and that I wanted to be where he was. And this is a very selfish feeling. I wanted to be God realized. And I edged over to the chair, and I leaned on it. I just about had my arm on it, and I was willing in my heart to take the picture off with it garlanded and everything, set it aside and sit down in that chair myself. Now that might sound funny, but it wasn't funny.
No, I'm sure it wasn't, but...
And some people would find it quite heretical, and they can. That's fair. I'll be a heretic on camera. But, that's how I felt. I really wanted...
Very strongly.
Whatever, this God realization thing, Baba says don't hold me to any promises and things like that. Well, there's been an awful lot of talk about God realization here. I wouldn't mind. This seems to be on the table. So if you don't mind, I've come all this way. I don't, maybe of course I don't seriously know exactly what I'm asking for there, but that was what I was asking for. And so I leaned into the chair and kept thinking these heretical thoughts about sitting in it. Now I understand that in the history of life here in India, people have done such things. And I think they've worn out their welcome here. I don't know whatever happened to them and stuff like that. They don't concern me. I don't even know those people. I will congratulate them for having the nerve that I didn't have. On the other hand, it was a heretical thing to do. I didn't follow through. Someone sort of tapped me gently and said, Mehra says not to crowd out Baba's chair. And so I didn't. I backed off. That will be the end. That's where we quit.
You mean that's where you quit?
That's the end of this interview. I don't want to say anymore.
Oh, okay. Do you want to go back and talk about when you left and went back? Did you feel any changes or anything like that?
You mean when I revisited India?
When you went back to the West, did you feel anything, any changes or anything like that?
Not enough. There's nothing clear. I can say that I looked at some of my friends had gone. I mean, or gone back. Some of my friends had gone to the Darshan earlier than I had, some of my Chapel Hill friends, and had come back from it. And one, I took a close look at them to see what effect the Darshan had on them. And in one case, I didn't see anything. But in another case, I very definitely did see a change. But a positive change, a much more loving look and a softer look in this person's eyes. There was, in some people, a very loving change.
Let's regress a little bit. Let's regress just slightly, if you don't mind. When did you come to Bob? It was all within such a close period of time. How did you hear about Baba, and at what point in time did that happen, and what brought it about? I know Chapel Hill, a lot of people at that time were hearing about Baba, right?
Really, it goes into a lot of time. It goes into pre-Baba days, because I like to think that Baba was trying to get in contact with me, and I would see books like The God Man, Hurdle's God Man reviewed, and think, well, gee, that would be a fascinating book.
How did you see the book? I mean,
I never saw the book, just saw the review of the book in some little newsletter that was put out by a metaphysical bookstore. And the book looked like it'd be quite a fascinating read, but I didn't read it. It was just sort of, the book review and everything else was just sort of shelved aside on one of those many, many things you'd like to take a look at but never quite get around to doing. And that was one case, and another case was going into a medical bookstore, Sam Weiser's in New York, and seeing, shelves and shelves and shelves, racks and racks of books, all on metaphysical subjects, and thinking, now what's the best book in this whole place? And browsing around, just completely lost, because I didn't know where to begin. And coming up and seeing this title, God Speaks.
What year was this?
Oh God, this is probably 66, just guessing. And thinking, well, there's a presumptuous title. This guy has a lot of to write a title like that. So I thumbed through it and thought I will try to distill this book and just scan it and see if I can't get some grip on some special thing it would have to say that might clue me in as to why this book is any more God Speaks than anything else. And I couldn't do it. I just scanned through, and I didn't try to seriously get into any one part. I saw a bunch of charts, and I thought, gee, everybody in the world has their own little set of charts and their own little structure of metaphysical truth, and how do I know that this guy knows anything more than anybody else? How can I deal with this, put the book back on the shelf? Maybe I looked at the photograph, I don't even remember for sure what I did with that. This was pre-Baba, and it wasn't until later that the person who ended up telling me about MeherBaba, where it was finally stuck in my brain, was a guy named Will Bullard, who eventually got incarcerated for drugs. we all should have been incarcerated for drugs, but Will was the one who took the brunt of it. And I thought it quite ironic at the time because Mayor Baba was sending out statements like, "Don't write me any letters. I'm in seclusion." And I'm thinking, poor old Will doesn't get anything from anybody. You know, it'd be really great if you know, he got a few more letters. That doesn't mean I wrote him. It just means that I thought that and was kind of resentful about the injustice of the world, which was a habitual thing that a young person has to do.
And then I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that wasn't.
I was going to ask him, how did Will tell you about Baba?
Oh, he just showed me a card. And he had the Baba card. It said something, "I am Rama, I'm Krishna, and God in human form," and the symbols of the world religions on it. And I was thinking, boy, that's really quite a claim. And then Will said he was at Myrtle Beach, which sort of the impression I got, which I don't think anybody knew directly. Maybe Marshall Hay knew at the time whether Baba was physically at Myrtle Beach or not. But again, I got the impression, well, this is a place for, well, the term New Age didn't exist back then, but that's the term that would apply. And I would say that that was the impression it would be a quite fascinating place to visit with all kinds of interesting people doing vegetarian diets and wearing white robes and sandals and taking cold showers and that would be fine. That was cool. I would like to see it, but that wasn't enough to draw me there. Again, it's one of those things you sort of put on life's pile of interesting things that you didn't quite get around to. I did come to Myrtle Beach eventually, and Nancy Sasser was the one that got that initiated. Nancy had been a friend of Art Lester. They lived downstairs in the house that I was staying at in Chapel Hill. One day I came home from work and I kept my room unlocked and found that there was a rose and a glass of water in the room. I had no idea who put it there. And someone told me, "Hey man, Nancy put that rose in your room." I thought, Nancy, wow, so great, so that was even more of a surprise than the rose itself. I mean, Nancy and I were friendly, but we had never been real close, so it was this real pleasant surprise to be getting a rose. Anyway, Nancy came by and she said, we struck up this friendship. And she began to talk about MeherBaba. She felt like MeherBaba was doing wonderful things to people and to her. And she thought we should go down to the Manor Center. But she thought that would be the best thing we could do. And I thought, well, I've always wanted to go down there. Let's check this out. So we left at 11 o'clock at night. I don't know why we thought it might be open by the time we got down there, but we left and took a long, slow journey through the lowlands of eastern North Carolina and South Carolina and little back roads that you had to go through to get there from Chapel Hill. And I think we got down there probably around 4 or 5 in the morning. Of course, we couldn't find the place. She had a rough idea where it was, but we were on the wrong side of the road for it. We ended up on a 2-lane dirt road. And then we came to a big mud puddle. I mean, a big mud puddle. And I thought, well, I'm not going to get my car through that. No way. So we could stop that. I'm not going to take that chance. We thought we'd just sleep in the car. It was kind of I don't know, it was about May, I believe. And the insects, the mosquitoes just ate us alive. There was no way to get out of this. The windows were, you put the windows up and to keep the insects out, you roasted. And if you took them down to get any breeze at all, they came in. So, as cheap as I was, and I felt like we better get a motel room. So we went into town and got a motel room. I think it was sunrise by the time we got into town, coming in for the night at around 6 in the morning. We got some sleep. Woke up. She knew how to get in touch with the center. We called up. Marshall Hay and Art Lester came out and met us at an eating spot down in the central part of town and took us out to the center. There I met Kitty Davy. And my impression of Kitty was very positive. I think I recognized her as sort of an archetypical wise person. Somebody who had a lot of ancient wisdom, and of course she was alive, alert, happy, quite old, and really beautiful in a way. And seemed so happy to see us, and was still welcome. Coming to Baba was a long, slow process. It didn't take place then, and but this gives you an idea. This is slow. Other people experience it a different way. Again, I think that's enough.
But you got to tell, where did you realize your heart? Tell that spot.
Don't know.
Well, there was no place that you can...
I'll tell you what, this again will seem a little bit heretical, but I'll have to run for what it's worth. I still continued to do drugs and resented MeherBaba's attitude and his teachings toward them. But I also wanted to... Kitty made me feel welcome. She welcomed me. She told us to come back. And I was very glad she did. And I came down with a bunch of people, and it was, I think in 1968, there were 2 days of silence. That particular silence, I believe, was May 20th. And that day, MeherBaba had been saying since, I think, February or so, that something would happen in the universe. So I got the impression some big spontaneous impulse would go throughout the universe and create something that would happen that had never happened before for millions of years, would never happen again for millions of years. Sounded pretty big to me. I wanted to be down at the center for it. I had sort of forgotten about that commitment to go down to the center, although I've been looking forward to it, and had the opportunity to do some drugs the night before. And with the people I wanted to do drugs with, I was looking forward to a real good evening, a real interesting evening, and it turns out that it caused a lot of anxiety. And the term for that these days is panic attack. And I think the morning of an all-night situation there was a great deal of anxiety and just wanting to crash, to go to bed and to just go to sleep for 10 hours or so. And I got back to where I was staying, and the person who was staying with me, his name was Ken Kaufman, was outside waiting for me. And I'm thinking, it's about 6 in the morning, what's he doing outside? And he says, have you forgotten? We're supposed to go to the center today. Well, I'm thinking, oh my God, don't know if I can do this. And he's telling me, yes, and we're supposed to pick up so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. And we were supposed to pick up a bunch of people to go down to Myrtle Beach on May 20th and to experience this thing that Mayor Baba was supposed to do throughout the universe. Somehow or other, I started out that day in a very dark and extremely restless mood, and just about wanted to commit myself to a mental hospital. I was that stressed out. I didn't feel like dealing with anything, and here I was facing kind of a complicated situation, driving my car, taking a bunch of people, picking people up and stuff. But we went, and on the way the mood brightened. I don't know how, but I got in a pretty good mood. And by the time I got down to Myrtle Beach, I was feeling just fine. And got there, and Kitty and Elizabeth were sort of like a wall of ice. I didn't know what to think. And they said, come on inside, leaving my friends in the car. And immediately they started asking me about my drug use. And I told them. They really put me on the grill. And then they started asking me questions that seemed quite impossible to answer, like about these other people. Are they doing drugs? Well, I don't know. Have they done drugs in the past 2 weeks? Well, I don't know. I can't say. I think Henry Kashouty was out there at that time too. Anyway, they had a real problem with my being there, and they had even more of a problem with the people I brought. And I didn't understand why. And finally they said, well, didn't you get our telegram? I said, no, I didn't get any telegram. And they said, well, is this your current address? We sent it to this address, and it was correct. And so it was a telegram that never came. And so when they realized that I showed up with these people and that it had not been in flouting their telegram had said, don't bring anybody, just come by yourself. When they realized that I had not got the telegram, and they realized that they had to hustle around, realign their plans with assigning people to cabins and things like that. But at that point, they also asked me if I would obey Baba. And I said I would. And I have.
That was it for you. That's the end of your drug taking.
I guess it was. I never went back to doing any drugs from that day on. And I don't say that I went into that willingly. I don't say that I went into it out of any intelligence that the drugs were bad for me or that I wasn't doing anything good with my life, which was true. I think maybe I realized that on some level, but I didn't, I wasn't willing to face that part of it. I think more than anything else, that I really wanted to keep the friendship of Kitty and Elizabeth. And that was why I quit. I didn't even want to obey Mayor Baba. I just wanted to keep their friendship. And that's why I quit. And I have stayed off.
Because by then you were off drugs. No, not drugs, I'm sorry. You were still going to school at that point in time because...
No, I really wasn't. I was wasting my life.
But you did take care of it.
I was in a state of non-productivity. Depression would be a good word for it.
So the exams that you realigned...
That came later.
Uh-huh.
That came later.
And you did finish?
Kitty kept suggesting that I might want to go back and finish up my college years, and so I did. And then the Darshan came, and I went to India.
Great.
That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jai Meher Baba.
Jai Meher Baba.